So, welcome to ePathshala. This is a series of courses on computer networks. So, we are looking at application layer protocols, and then now we are looking at transport layer protocols. So, in transport layer protocols, we have been looking at TCP and UDP. So, in TCP, when you look at details of TCP, we are looking at the congestion control mechanisms. In the previous module, we had looked at some of the techniques that are used in congestion control. So, what we will be looking at today would be in terms of the various versions of TCP which use these congestion control mechanisms in different manners, plus certain enhancements that have been done to this. So, in a sense we can say that we are looking at the evolution of TCP's congestion control mechanism. So, we will look at a version which is called as TCP's Tahoe, TCP's Reno, and then we will look at something called Vegas. In between we will also look at some of the enhancements that have been done to TCP Reno protocol. So, the next, if you look at the different congestion control mechanisms that we had looked at so far, there are 4 components that we have looked at. One is slow start, the other is additive increase, multiplicative decrease, the third component is fast retransmit, and the fourth component is called as fast recovery. All these 4 techniques we have looked at in the previous module. So, what we are now going to look at is use these 4 different components, how these 4 different components are used in the 2 different versions, that is TCP Tahoe and TCP Reno. So, that is what we will start with. Then we will look at the problems that occur in these combinations and how these are being rectified. So, remember that slow start is where we start off with a congestion window size of 1 and we keep doubling it until we hit a threshold or until a drop occurs. Additive increase, multiplicative increase is used once we have hit congestion or that there is some indication of congestion, which is that we have identified that a congestion has occurred by means of some drop, and then you start reducing, you reduce the congestion window and further increase the congestion window only additively, a linear increase, but your decrease is a multiplicative decrease. Fast retransmit and fast recovery are 2 other different techniques that are used. Okay, we will come to these in detail. So, if you look at TCP Tahoe, what it uses is just the first 3 techniques, that is slow start, additive increase, multiplicative decrease, and the fast retransmit technique. TCP Reno on the other hand uses slow start, it uses additive increase, fast retransmit, it also uses the fast recovery technique. We also have a TCP new Reno which actually uses Reno plus partial acts, and then we also have SAC which is Reno plus selective acknowledgements. Then we have TCP FAC which is Reno plus forward acknowledgements, and then we also have TCP Vegas which uses what is called as a fine grained RTT. Now, let us look at the basic idea of TCP and how it exactly reacts to the different losses that occur. So, when a loss occurs which is indicated by a timeout, we reset the congestion window to 1 MSS and then the window goes exponentially as in slow start until you hit the threshold. After that it increases linearly. This is first point to remember. In the case of TCP Reno, okay, this point of loss indicated by timeout is common for both TCP Reno and for TCP Tahoe. In the case of TCP Reno, what you will see is that since it also uses fast recovery, when a loss is indicated by 3 duplicative acts, okay, what TCP Reno does is that it indicates the arrival of the duplicate acknowledgements is taken as an indication that the network is actually capable of delivering some segments. Because of that, you can now try to increase the amount of data that you are sending into the network. So, you cut the congestion window into half and then you grow linearly. So, you do not really come back to slow start and then start again from there, but you just kind of grow linearly from there. So, let us look at how these 2 protocols basically differ. Okay. So, remember that these are there is one basic point to remember, TCP Tahoe will always set the congestion window to 1, whether it is a timeout or whether it is in the case of 3 duplicate acts that are received, okay, whereas TCP Reno will not do the same thing. Okay. So, let us look at how these different 4 different components of TCP come together in case of TCP Tahoe. Okay. So, when you start, obviously you are going to start with the slow start mechanisms, you start with the congestion window size of 1 and then you start building from there. So, as you send packets and you get acknowledgements, you increment your congestion window for every act that is received and you keep sending data. Now, you keep doing this, right, you keep doing the same thing until the congestion window reaches a threshold, right, so in which case you will move into a congestion avoidance phase. So, when you go into congestion avoidance, what would happen is that you will now increment your your congestion window by 1 for every congestion window amount of packets that you have sent. So, that is when you get an acknowledgement for the entire congestion window, then you increment it by a value of 1. So, this is what will happen in the congestion avoidance phase. Now, in this process, if a timeout occurs, so then you go into a retransmission timeout phase. In the retransmission timeout state, what you would actually do is that you will set the congestion window to 1 and you will retransmit the packet. Once you have got the acknowledgement for all whatever you have retransmitted, then you again go back to slow start, right, and the process will continue. So, in slow start again you will start with the congestion window of 1, keep doubling until you hit the threshold and then you move on, right. Meanwhile, if you are in the congestion avoidance phase, there are two things that can happen, either in the slow start phase or in the congestion avoidance phase, right, or let us start with the congestion avoidance phase for instance. In the congestion avoidance phase, when you are in the congestion, that is in the additive increase phase for instance, when you are in the congestion avoidance phase, if you get 3 duplicate acts, that is before a timeout occurs, if you get 3 duplicate acts, then you will move into a fast retransmit state. So, in the fast retransmit state, what you would do is you would send the missing packet as soon as you get the 3 duplicate acts without waiting for the timeout to occur. Set your threshold value to half of the congestion window size and congestion window size is set to 1 and you move to slow start. So, this process will continue and again once you are in slow start, again it is the same process. From here slow start, either you may move to retransmission timeout if a timeout occurs, or once you hit threshold you go back to congestion avoidance, right, or if there are 3 duplicate acts again you may go back to fast retransmit. So, these will be the different, you can look at these as 4 different phases in which TCP Tahoe will be operating. It could move from one of these to either of these based on whatever events occur. Okay. So, this is basically what TCP Tahoe does. Now, I will just take an example of how this when TCP Tahoe is in action, what exactly will be taking place. So, let us look at this situation where I have for instance a set of 8 packets being transmitted. Let us assume that our congestion window size is 8. So, I am transmitting packets 31 to 38, but packet 31 let us say is lost. So, if packet 31 is lost, what would happen is that there will be 7 duplicate acknowledgements that are received, because for every packet after that 32 to 38 an acknowledgement will be sent, and sorry, they will all be acknowledging packet number 30 saying they have received up to 30 and they are waiting for packet number 31. So, you get 7 duplicate acts all asking for packet number 31. So, now this is an indication obviously that something is going wrong. So, you can actually move into the fast retransmit phase. So, what will happen now, after 3 duplicate acts are received, your sender now will retransmit 31, the packet number 31 and set the congestion window value as 1. Okay. When that is transmitted, because only one packet was lost, now what will happen, the receiver will send an acknowledgement for 38 because now it is received from 31 to 38 correctly, and now again your sender now based on this has got 38, so it will set the congestion window back to 1, go into slow start and send packet number 39 and move on from there, right. So, this is what will happen in TCP Tahoe. Now, let us look at TCP Reno. Okay. So, if the initial part of TCP Reno is pretty much similar, so you can kind of go through it quickly. Slow start, right, you keep continue in slow start until you hit the threshold. Then once you have hit the threshold and moved into congestion avoidance, what you will do is again you will keep incrementing linear, that is the additive increase phase is what you will be in. So, once you are in the additive increase phase, if you get 3 duplicate acts because of one packet getting lost, but other packets are going in, right. Now, what you will do from the fast you will go into what is called as the fast retransmit phase, and in the fast retransmit phase here is the difference compared to TCP's Tahoe. So, what we will do here is from here you will move into what is called as a fast recovery phase. So, in this process what we actually do is you do not set your congestion window back to 1, instead you set your threshold value to half of the congestion window that exists at this point of time. You set the threshold, you set the congestion window to this threshold and you start sending the missing packet. Okay, you send the missing packet and you continue in this fast recovery state, right, and you keep sending data. As you get duplicate acknowledgements, you continue to send data. So, as you get duplicate acknowledgements, you increase your congestion window, and the moment you get a non-duplicate acknowledgement, that is, let us say for instance packet number X is the one that has been retransmitted. So, the moment you get a non-duplicate ACK which is greater than that X, it indicates that the recovery has taken place, right. So, then you move back into the congestion avoidance phase. Okay. So, this is, and when you are moving to congestion avoidance phase, you set your congestion window back to the threshold that you had originally set it to, right. You had already halved the congestion window. and set that as a threshold. So that value is reset back here as the congestion window size, and you move back into congestion avoidance. So this is the basic difference that you have between Reno and Tahoe. In addition to this, of course, if a timeout occurs in whichever phase you are, whether you are in slow start or whether you are in congestion avoidance, you will again move into the retransmission timeout phase and then go back to slow start once all the packets have been acknowledged. Okay. Similarly, from slow start again, if you get 3 duplicate tags, you will also move into fast retransmit. But the way out of fast retransmit is always into fast recovery and then back into congestion avoidance. Okay. So this is what you will see as the overall, you can look at it as a state diagram for TCP's Reno. Now looking at an example again for TCP Reno, the first 2 steps are the same as we have in TCP's Tahoe. So if you look at this, I am losing packet number 31. So again, as we said, there will be 7 duplicate acknowledgements that are being sent because my window size is 8. I have sent 8 packets. So 7 duplicate tags are sent. Next, now let us look at what is going to happen. When 7 duplicate tags are received, the moment it gets 3 duplicate tags, it is going to retransmit the packet. Okay, so packet number 31 will be retransmitted. Okay, so now what it will do is, this is where the difference is. The congestion window now will be set to half the value plus 3 because of the 3 other duplicate acts that you have received. You are incrementing the congestion window for every duplicate act that you received, and based on that fact, you can actually go ahead and send 3 more packets into the network. So you are using the fact that the network actually is sending packets, using that fact to increase the amount of data that you can send into the network. And that is indicated by the additional duplicate acknowledgements. So once you get these acknowledgements, you are incrementing your congestion window, so you are able to send more packets to the network. So you now send 3 additional packets to the network. So you, let's say for instance we send now 39, 40 and 41. So once you send these packets, you will get an acknowledgement. Now what is the acknowledgement that you get for the retransmitted packet? You will get an acknowledgement of 38. Once you get your acknowledgement of 38, now remember this is the acknowledgement for the retransmitted, you retransmit packet, now you got acknowledgement for value which is greater than that packet, right. So your x was, in this example the x was 31, so you will get an acknowledgement of 38 which is much greater than x, right. So this indicates that all the packets that one packet was lost, other packets have already reached. So you are moving out of the fast recovery phase and you come back into the additive increase phase by setting your congestion window back to 4. Okay, so this is what happens. So if you take a quick comparison of both these mechanisms, okay, so let's look at what will happen here. Let's say for instance I start off with slow start, right, I start at the value of 1. So every transmission round, okay, you will increase to 2, 4, 8, right. Let's assume that the threshold was at 8. So after 8 what would happen, for every round you will be incrementing it by a value of 1. So you will go to 9, 10, 11, 12, right. So let's assume that when you are at 12, a timeout occurs, okay, or not a timeout, we look at it in terms of, let's say there are 3 duplicate acts which are reached, there is a packet which is lost at 12. So now what will happen at this point of time, if you receive those 3 duplicate acts, there is a difference in how TCP Reno will behave and how TCP Tahoe will behave. What will TCP Tahoe do? Tahoe, remember, will set the threshold to half of this congestion window which is 6, okay. So, and it will send the congestion window now back to 1 and do a slow start from here. So it will go to 1, then go to 2, then go to 4, and before going to 8 it will hit the threshold. So it will set it to 6 and start doing a linear increase from there. Now TCP Reno on the other hand, the moment it detects the loss of packets, that is, it goes into the 3 duplicate acts, so goes into the fast retransmit phase. So it will now set the congestion window to half the original congestion window, right. So that is, it will set it to the value of 6. Now from 6 now it will start doing a linear increase. So you will actually see that additive increase and multiplicative decrease, that mechanism is very much visible when you are looking at the TCP's Reno mechanism. Now from here you will see that it is doing an additive increase, right. So this kind of should give you an idea of how TCP Reno and TCP Tahoe kind of compare with each other. Okay. You can see that you are getting a better performance with TCP Reno, right. So again, if you look at what kind of, I mean, if you try to compare the throughput that you get with TCP in both these cases, okay, approximately if you try to see what kind of throughput you can get with these mechanisms in place. Now that because of congestion, because TCP is trying to do congestion avoidance, doing some extra work. So in doing this extra work, how is the throughput getting affected? If you want to take a look at that, we can do a quick calculation to understand how it will behave. So let's say for instance, let's assume that W is the window size, okay, where a loss occurs. So what will happen the moment a loss occurs? We know that the window size will be brought down to half, okay. So it will come to W by 2 and then from here you will keep doing a linear increase, right. So, you can see a ramp like function is what you will get. Let us say again at W you will get another, you get a loss. So, again you come back to W by 2. So, what is it that you are doing? You are transmitting W by 2 amount of packets in at a particular time, and it takes you, for instance, you move up to W size of, you move up to window size of W, and again there is a drop, so you keep coming back. So, on an average if you see, you will keep shifting between W by 2 W by 2 number of packets per RTT to W number of packets per RTT. So, you can say that on an average you will be somewhere at 3 by 4 W, that is between W by 2 and W, right. So, 3/4 of a window per RTT will be the throughput that you can get. Okay. So, this is the kind of throughput that one expects with TCP with these additive increase, multiplicative decrease in action. So, how fair is TCP when you look at TCP with all this congestion control in place? Remember that what we are talking about now is only for we looked at it for a single connection. Now, similar situation is going to occur for multiple connections which are all going through a router, right. For instance, when congestion occurs, okay, now, and if some packets are dropped, there are multiple connections which are currently in existence, right, which are connecting up different end nodes. So, if they are all TCP connections, all these TCP connections, if they experience some loss, they will all do a congestion control, and because of that they will adjust the amount of data that they are sending into the network, and they will be able to use the bandwidth effectively. But during this process, how fair is this process? Does everybody get an equal share of the bandwidth? That is our goal, right. So, if I have, for instance, a link of bandwidth R, okay, and if I have k TCP sessions in progress, what is the average rate I would like to get? I would like each of them to get an average rate of R by k, right. So, does it happen is what we need to understand. So, this to understand this further, okay, so let us look at a simple example of just 2 TCP sessions which are competing for the bandwidth, okay. So, if you look at this graph, you can see this is just plotting connection 1's throughput versus connection 2's throughput, okay. So, now R is your maximum capacity that is available. So, obviously, if one gets a higher throughput, you are going to be somewhere within this area, right. So, if you get a higher value of throughput, then you are going to get, if one is getting a higher value of throughput, 2 will have a lower throughput and so on, okay. So, this is what, and this dotted line in between tells you that both of them have equal bandwidth share, okay. If they are somewhere here, it means that both of them have equal bandwidth share. Ideal position in which they should be will be somewhere over here at the intersection of these two lines. So, let us assume that, for instance, we are somewhere here to start with, okay. So, now look at what will happen. Bandwidth will keep, this connection 1's throughput will keep increasing because it is increasing its window size, trying to send more data into the network. Now, obviously, it will hit a limit, and then it will go into the congestion avoidance phase and then do additive increase, right. Now, what will happen? Because of that, once a loss occurs, there will be a decrease of the window by a factor of 2. So, this one's the connection 1's throughput will come down, right, and then again it will go into additive increase phase. So, it will keep increasing the amount of data, so its throughput will increase. Again, if a loss occurs, what will happen? There will again be a decrease in its throughput, okay, and then again there will be additive increase phase, so it will start increasing. Now, the same process you will see will keep repeating, right, so much so that they will start approaching that point where you will actually have fair transmission, that is both of them will have equal bandwidth, right. So, this is what we expect to happen. So, in a sense we can say that with this process of AIMD in place, TCP is fair. But there are certain other things that you can do. You can actually play around with TCP to exploit its fairness behavior and try to do other things. So, if you see, for instance, some applications may require more amount of the data rate than other applications. For instance, when you have multimedia applications, they do not want to use TCP because they know that their rate will be controlled because of the congestion control mechanism that we have, okay, that the rate at which they are transmitting data will be throttled. So, they do not use TCP and instead use UDP. Now, what will happen when you have UDP traffic and TCP traffic existing simultaneously in the network? The TCP traffic will do congestion control and therefore, it will suffer because it will start reducing the amount of data, whereas UDP will not do any congestion control and will happily use all the available traffic that is being freed up also by TCP. Okay, so we have this, when you have a combination of UDP and TCP, UDP can get more amount of traffic than TCP. Okay. So, another trick that many applications use is that they use parallel TCP connections in trying to exploit this fairness mechanism. Okay. So, for instance, let us say an application can open multiple parallel connections between two hosts. Now many browsers and many other applications, they will do this. Okay, the advantage of doing this is that, so let's say you want a link of rate R you have, and there are 9 existing connections. Okay, so now a new app, if it asks for one TCP connection, what is the rate that it will get? Now there are 10 connections, remember, so it will get R by 10. Okay, whereas, but if the new app now asks for 11 TCPs, it opens up 11 parallel connections. How much of bandwidth it will get? Out of the 20, right? There are totally now already 9. Now it asks for 11 more. So you get 11 out of 20 connections will get TCP's fair share. So you get overall you get almost half the available bandwidth will be available for this application. Okay, so applications do kind of exploit this fairness aspect which is there in TCP, and they try to get the maximum throughput for their application. Okay, so these are some of the facts that we need to understand about TCP's congestion control. Going further, okay, we also need to understand how these congestion control mechanisms are effective when you do bulk data transfers. One thing about data transfers is that we need a high throughput, that is one thing. Second thing is, often when you are doing bulk data transfers, you are transmitting large amounts of data, we also would like to know if the data transfer is taking place effectively and if there are any problems that are caused by that kind of a data transfer. So typically what we would like to do is, if in order to get best performance, you want to fill the network pipe, right? So if you have a TCP sender, you can look at the entire network that you have as a WAN, as a pipe. So you are looking at sending data into the pipe and receiving acknowledgements back from that pipe. Okay, so when do we get the highest performance? Is when the pipe is full. So a situation that you'll get is something like this. You're sending data, it's all filled with packets, and you'll keep getting acknowledgements periodically. Okay, this is the normal expectation. Now, just to understand how this will happen, so let's say with our AIMD in face, with our whatever Tahoe or Reno in place, with the congestion avoidance mechanism. So let's see how this filling of the pipe actually takes place. Now typically you will start with the congestion window of 1, so you will see that the pipe is really not very full. You can see that in this first picture over here. Okay, this packet reaches the other end, and once it's reached, until you get an acknowledgement back, there is no data transfer taking place. Next step, you would have increased the window size to 2. So when you increase the window size to 2, now what will happen? You can see that there's a better utilization of the pipe, right? More of data is filling the pipe. So next step would be that you would increase the window size to 3. When you increase it to 3, you can see that it's filling the pipe better, right? So you can see that it's kind of filled, right? Of course, there are still a lot of blank spaces because the round trip time is more than the window size, the amount of data you can send within that window size, right? So what happens when you have 4 packets being sent? The moment window size becomes 4, you can see that it's getting slightly better, right? 5 gets even better. Now in this example, with 6, with the window size of 6, because we have assumed kind of an RTT of about 6 packet taken to send 6 packets, so you can see that the moment the window size becomes 6, you can see that the pipe is almost becoming full, right? So with congestion avoidance, you will see that slowly, starting off with a window size of 1, as you move higher and higher towards, as you go closer to the RTT, you will be filling the pipe and you will be able to use it effectively. But in this process, there are certain drawbacks also that can occur. So this picture again is just to give you in one place how the filling of the pipe takes place. Now coming to the drawbacks that can occur. What happens when you have multiple packets which are lost, especially when you have these bulk data transfers? We know that if there are single packet drops that take place, we have our fast retransmit mechanism and so on, which will be used to recover from the loss very quickly. But what happens when you have multiple packet losses? It is interesting to note that if you look at this carefully, that TCP's Reno mechanism, when a multiple packet loss occurs, actually suffers very badly. Okay, so let's see what happens there. So what do you mean by the multiple packet loss actually? So let's say for instance there are 8 packets are retransmitted, but 3 packets are lost. Okay, so now when you get back your first acknowledgement, okay, when you transmit your first packet, when first packet is retransmitted, you will get back an acknowledgement. But the acknowledgement you get will not be for the entire block of packets you have transmitted, right? Because more packets have been lost. So what you get back, you can call as a partial acknowledgement. So we call that as a partial ACK. A partial ACK is something which is received when the first packet is retransmitted. Okay, when it's retransmitted, when you receive the ACK, we call it as the partial ACK. Now, what will this ACK do? It will cause your TCP's Reno or Reno mechanism to move out of the fast recovery state, right? You will come out of the fast recovery state, which means you will set your congestion window into half the value, right? And you will try to start transmit. But what will happen, because you do not have any packets to transmit, right? And you are waiting for acknowledgements to come, because the acknowledgements are not going to come because packets have been lost, right? What will end up happening is that you will get a timeout. And remember what happens when you time out. When you time out, you will obviously set the whole value back to 1, and then you will have to again go back to slow start and repeat the whole process, right? So, the advantage of filling the pipe that we had, okay, will be lost every time that you have multiple data, multiple packet losses that occur. So, this will obviously affect Reno's performance. This solution has been noticed in the past few years, and many solutions have been proposed for this. Okay. So, before we look at the solutions, an example of how this multiple packet loss problem will actually manifest in Reno. Okay, we will quickly go through this. So, let us say in this case, for example, packets number 31, 33 and 34 are lost. Okay. So, remember 32 is reaching. Okay. So, what happens now? There will be 5 duplicate tags which are sent, because remember out of 8, 3 packets have reached. So, 5 duplicate tags will be sent, and all of them will acknowledge that they have received packet number 30, they have still not received 31. So, we are getting 5 duplicate tags for asking for 31, right. So, that is what you get. Now, on receiving 3 duplicate tags, immediately you will do a retransmission of 31. This is how our Reno will behave, right. So, on doing this retransmission, now what will happen? You will get back now an acknowledgement. But what is this acknowledgement that you get? You will get acknowledgement for packet number 32, right. So, you have transmitted 31, now you are going to be, receiver side is going to say, I have received 31 and is waiting for 32 to be received. Okay, it is received 32, now it is going to wait for 33 to be received. So, it sends you a partial ACK for 32. Okay. On receiving this partial ACK, what will you do? Reno will exit the fast recovery mechanism, right. It is a partial ACK, but Reno does not recognize it as a partial ACK. It recognizes that as an ACK which is greater than what it had retransmitted. Therefore, it will exit that fast recovery mechanism. It will exit the fast recovery mechanism, set the congestion window to 4. Now, it has already sent 4 packets for which it has not yet received acknowledgements. Therefore, it cannot transmit any more packets, okay. And so, it will wait, and it will wait until the sender times out, and only then it will again be able to send any more packets to the network. Okay. So, this is the problem as you can see from this example, right. So, now coming to the solution. There are many solutions as I talked about. One of the first solutions that was proposed for Reno is TCP's New Reno. Now, New Reno, essentially what is done in this particular mechanism is that you extend the fast recovery phase. That is, you do not exit the fast recovery phase if you get a partial ACK. So, which means you have to identify that you actually got a partial ACK, which is very easy, because you are getting only an acknowledgement for a number which you have, which is somewhere in between what you had transmitted, right. You transmitted from 31 to 39, you should have actually got an acknowledgement of 39, but you only got an acknowledgement for 32, right. So, obviously, it is a partial ACK. So, identifying partial ACK is easy, but the moment you identify that it is a partial ACK, do not get out of the fast recovery phase, continue in the fast recovery phase. You get out of the fast recovery phase only when you have got the ACKs for all the packets that you have transmitted. Okay. So, that is the first mechanism that is used in New Reno. Second solution is what is called as TCP SAC, or selective acknowledgement mechanism. So, here what is done is there is a new option that is added in TCP which allows TCP to acknowledge the lost segments. Okay. So, if you acknowledge lost segments alone, then only those segments can be retransmitted. The third thing that we have is what is called as TCP's forward acknowledgement. So, this is actually an extension of the SAC mechanism itself, plus there is a better estimation of the available windows that you can transmit better. Fourth solution is what is called as TCP's Vegas. So, here what is done is you do a little bit more than this. So, you use the round trip time actually to signal congestion rather than waiting for even 3 duplicate tags or even waiting for a timeout to occur. Okay. So, with these 4 different solutions, you can see that the Reno's problem is solved and you are able to get much better performance. So, these are things that are currently in use. So, let us look at how TCP New Reno works. I told you the idea, right? That idea is that you will remain in fast recovery until all the data in the pipe, right, before detecting your 3 duplicate tags are ACKed. Okay. So, again let us take the same example. So, packets 31, 33 and 34 are lost. So, you get back 5 duplicate tags, right. Now, on receiving the 3 duplicate tags, you retransmit 31. Up to this, it is all the same. Okay. Now, let us look at what happens next. Now, what happens when you retransmit 31, you will get back an ACK for 32. So, this is a partial ACK. So, what do I do now? I will retransmit 33. I don't get out of fast recovery. I retransmit 33. So my congestion window size remains the same. Retransmit 33. And you can also transmit 40 because you got one ACK. So therefore, you can, your window size is large enough. You are able to transmit the next packet. 40 also has been transmitted. So now when I get an acknowledgement for 33, right? So I get 2 more duplicate acknowledgements for 33 because I have transmitted 2 packets. I'll get 2 duplicate ACKs for 33. Now what will happen? Again, you're able to increase your congestion window size. Again, you're not out of fast recovery and you transmit 41. Now when you transmit it, when you get a duplicate acknowledgement 33, what do you do now? You will now transmit 34. The moment you transmit 34, now all the lost packets have been retransmitted. So what will happen? You will get back, you will be able to also increase your window size to by 2 more packets. You will send 42 and 43 as well. Okay, and then now since all the retransmitted packets have been transmitted, plus some additional packets have also been transmitted, you will get back the acknowledgements for the packets that you have already transmitted. That is, you will actually get back acknowledgements for 40, 42 and 43. So the last acknowledged packet will be 43. So which means now that you are out of that all the packets, that is all your partial ACKs are over. Now you are getting a full ACK. So when you get a full ACK, you get out of fast recovery and you can set your congestion window back to the original threshold that we had and start your congestion avoidance phase again. Okay, so this is basically how new Reno works. Now coming to SAC, the selective acknowledgement. So here what we have is we have selective acknowledgements which are sent, right? So again, same situation, let's take 31, 33, 34 are lost. Now what happens here is you get a selective acknowledgement which says when packet number 31 is not received but 32 is received, the acknowledgement will specifically say that I have received 32, I have not received 31. So 32, you're getting a selective acknowledgement saying that I have received 32 to 32, this block is what I have received. When the second packet 35 is received and the acknowledgement is sent, it will tell you that 35 has been received and 32 has been received. So 33, 34 are missing. So that information is all becomes available. So with every duplicate, with every acknowledgement that is received, we get selective information as to which are the exact packets that have not been received on the other side. So this information is what we make use of. So now you can retransmit 31. The moment you receive 32, right? A selective ACK for 32, so retransmit 31, right? And you'll get a partial ACK for 32, so you can retransmit the 2 lost segments, 33 and 34 can be retransmitted now because we already have an indication of those 2. So you retransmit those, right? You keep retransmitting like this and then you can exit the fast recovery once you get back the acknowledgement for 39, 40 and so on. Because you are transmitting additional packets to the network, as you get the acknowledgements, you will now move out of it. So SAC is a very useful mechanism in that sense. In the forward ACK, what you do is, it's a kind of extension of the SAC mechanism, but you do a better estimation of the window size so that you can transmit more packets, keep it going faster and faster, okay. So here again what we do is, same example let's take, again you will get back SAC with all this information. Now what you do is, you don't even wait for 3 duplicate ACKs, instead you will retransmit 31 based on the forward ACK that you receive. That is, when I receive, what we mean by a forward ACK is that when I receive an ACK for 35, I am actually waiting for 38, right, but I am receiving for 35 and I retrans. Now the last packet I have transmitted is 31. So if the difference between this forward ACK that I have received 35 and 31 is greater than 3, you can do a retransmission. That is basically how forward ACK mechanism tries to do a retransmission quicker without even waiting for 3 duplicate ACKs. So now when it receives that ACK for 35, it knows it can retransmit 31, so it retransmits 31. Once 31 is retransmitted, your window size is also incremented for the duplicate ACKs that you receive and you can continue transmission. And then you exit the fast recovery phase once you get back the acknowledgements for the last packet in that block that you have transmitted. Okay. So this is basically how the TCP forward recovery mechanism works. TCP Vegas is a totally new or a totally different approach. Here what you do is, there is a change in how fast retransmit itself is triggered. So what we do here is, instead of waiting for 3 duplicate ACKs, what we do here is, on receiving the first duplicate ACK, you check whether the current sending time current time minus the sending time plus minimum RTT is greater than the timeout value. Okay. If it is greater, then you trigger the fast retransmit mechanism. That is, you are not waiting for 3 duplicate ACKs, but even when you get the first duplicate ACK, you check whether this timing holds, and if this timing holds, you will go into the fast retransmit mechanism. This is one of the first things with TCP Vegas. Second thing about TCP Vegas is that it makes use of fine-grained RTTs. That is, instead of waiting for the coarse-grained congestion control mechanism, it makes use of fine-grained RTTs, which is supported by one of the TCP options. So using that, TCP anticipates when congestion is going to occur based on the minimum RTT rather than trying to wait for. So how does it calculate this minimum RTT? That's again an interesting aspect of TCP Vegas. So what it does is it finds the minimum RTT, that actual measured minimum RTT, sets that as the base RTT, and then if the it uses the expected sending rate and calculates the actual sending rate. How do I calculate the expected sending rate? This is the congestion window divided by base RTT, and you calculate the difference between the expected sending rate and the actual sending rate. If this difference is between two thresholds A and B, right, then everything is fine. But if it is less than A, it means that you can increase for your congestion window by value of 1. If it is greater than B, then you will decrease your congestion window. Okay, so as long as you are between A and B, between these two thresholds, you are doing fine. So that is basically how TCP Vegas tries to handle the congestion. So it basically tries to control the utilization of bandwidth without overloading the network. So that's the goal of TCP Vegas. Okay. So there are also other TCP variations that have been proposed further. These are all a lot of experimental stuff that are going on. You have something called big, cubic, fast TCP, high speed TCP, and so on. Okay, so we will leave it as an exercise for you all to learn on your own. Okay, so to summarize, these are the things that we have looked at in this module. We have looked at Tahoe, we have looked at Reno, we have looked at how the state transitions take place in both these mechanisms, and we have also looked at a particular problem which occurs in Reno, which is the multiple loss problem, and the solutions that have been proposed for that. Okay, we have looked at New Reno, we have looked at SAC, we have looked at FAC, we also looked at Vegas. Thank you.